The queen and the prisoner. The metal door hissed open, and a cold light flooded the long corridor. Inside the great palace of the alien empire, silence ruled like a heavy shadow. Guards stood still, their eyes fixed ahead. No one dared to speak. At the end of the hall, a human man was dragged forward. His clothes were torn. His face was tired but strong. This man was Jace Carter, the prisoner who had survived against all odds. The alien queen waited on her throne. Her skin shimmered silver, like moonlight, and her eyes glowed with a strange blue light. She looked powerful and cold. She ruled many stars and planets. No one ever said no to her. But today was different. Jace was brought before her, shackled and bruised. The room was large and filled with strange machines and glowing symbols. The queen's gaze pierced through him like a blade. "Speak," she said, her voice smooth but sharp. Jace raised his head. He looked her straight in the eyes, not afraid. The queen smiled coldly. "You are the last of your kind, human. Your people lost the war. You should be dead." Jace said nothing. She stood and walked down the stairs to face him. "I could kill you now easily, but I am curious." The queen stopped close to him. "I will grant you one wish, anything you want. Power, freedom, revenge. Name it, and it is yours." The room grew still. The guards looked shocked. No prisoner was ever given a wish. Jace blinked. He thought for a moment. Then he said quietly, "I choose you." The queen's eyes widened. "What?" she asked, her voice low. Jace repeated, "I choose you." The queen's face showed confusion. No one had ever said such a thing before. Not even her closest allies dared to speak to her like this. She moved back to her throne, sitting with a graceful but puzzled look. "Why would a human choose me?" she whispered. Jace met her gaze. "Because I see something behind your crown, something real, something lonely." The queen's advisors whispered among themselves. They said this was madness. The human was dangerous, but the queen could not stop looking at Jace. He was different from the others she had crushed and conquered. She remembered her long years alone, ruling a cold empire where no one dared love her. The human's words stirred something deep inside her. "One wish," she said again. "Make it count." Jace smiled faintly. "I do not want power. I do not want to leave. I do not want revenge." The queen leaned forward. "Then what do you want?" Jace's voice was soft but strong. "I want you, not your power, not your throne, just you." The queen's heart beat fast. She did not understand. Was this a trick? A trap? But the truth was clear. For the first time in centuries, someone looked at her with kindness, not fear or hate. The room was silent. Suddenly, a guard shouted, "Your Majesty, this is dangerous. He could be lying." The queen raised her hand. "Enough." She stood again and walked to the large window that looked out at the stars. The galaxy was wide and full of war, but here, in this moment, something new was born. The queen turned to Jace. "Very well. You have your wish." She stepped down from the throne and extended her hand. Jace took it without hesitation. The room felt warmer. The cold metal and stone seemed to soften. Outside, a new story had begun. The alien queen and the human prisoner. Two souls from different worlds, linked by a wish no one could understand. The queen's lips curved in a rare smile, the first in a very long time. But deep in the shadows, unseen eyes watched. Not everyone would welcome this choice. The war was not over. The empire was full of enemies. But for now, the queen and the prisoner stood together, and the galaxy waited to see what would happen next. "Why did you choose me?" After the surprising wish, the palace was filled with whispers. The queen's advisors were angry and confused. How could a simple human choose their mighty queen over anything else? Many called it a foolish mistake. But inside the queen's private chamber, silence held a different kind of tension. The queen paced slowly. Her silver skin shone under the soft lights. Her glowing blue eyes searched the face of the man who dared to change everything. Jace Carter. "You surprised me," she said quietly. "Why would you choose me? I am your enemy, your conqueror." Jace looked calm. He met her gaze with steady eyes. "Because I see more than a queen," he said. "I see a woman trapped by power and loneliness, a woman who hides pain behind a crown." The queen stopped and stared at him. No one had ever spoken to her like this before. No one saw the cracks beneath her armor. Her voice was soft now, almost unsure. "You don't fear me?" Jace shook his head. "I fear nothing. I only want to understand." She sat down slowly on a velvet chair, the weight of the empire heavy on her shoulders. "Everyone fears me," she whispered. "They obey out of fear, not respect. That is why I am alone." Jace stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I know loneliness. Your people see only the queen. I see the person beneath." For a moment, the queen's pride wavered. She remembered endless battles, betrayals, and empty victories. Power had brought her enemies, not friends. Her advisors burst into the room, demanding answers. "Your Majesty, this human is dangerous. He plans to use you." The queen raised a hand. "Enough. I will decide." Turning back to Jace, she asked, "What do you want from me? What is your plan?" Jace smiled slightly. "No plan. Just a chance to be more than enemies." She studied him. Could she trust this stranger? Suddenly, alarms blared. The palace was under attack by rebels who hated the queen's rule. The queen's eyes hardened. She grabbed her weapon, ready for battle. "Stay close," she ordered Jace. As they moved through dark halls and flashing lights, the queen realized something new. For the first time, she did not feel alone. The queen's secret, the palace attack, had ended. The rebels failed to break through the queen's defenses, but the damage was done, not to the walls but to her trust in her own people. That night she didn't return to her throne. Instead, she sat alone on a stone balcony overlooking the stars, her silver hair glowing under the twin moons. The stars were quiet, but her thoughts were loud. She had ruled thousands of years, and not one night had ever felt this heavy. Behind her, quiet footsteps approached. She didn't need to turn. "You followed me," she said. Jace stood a few steps back. "You left without saying anything." "I wanted to be alone." He nodded. "But you're not alone now." She closed her eyes. "That's the problem." For a while they stood in silence. Then she spoke again, but her voice was different this time. Not like a ruler, like a woman carrying a wound too deep to see. "I wasn't always a queen," she whispered. "I was born from a dying bloodline. My people can no longer reproduce. I am the last pure blood of my race. The end." Jace didn't say anything. He let her talk. "I wasn't chosen because I was strong. I was chosen because I could no longer make more of us. I was crowned as a symbol, not a leader." Her hands trembled slightly. "But I became a ruler anyway. I made them fear me so they would listen." Jace slowly walked closer. "You've been carrying this secret alone?" "Yes," she said bitterly, "and soon I will fade. I am not immortal. I am just the last." He reached out and gently took her hand. Her eyes widened. She wasn't used to soft touches. "No crown can hide that kind of pain," he said softly. "But you don't have to hide from me." She tried to pull her hand away but couldn't. For the first time in her long life, someone didn't flinch when he touched her. For the first time, someone saw the woman behind the armor. Not a symbol, not a queen, just her. She turned her face to him. "Why do you keep doing this?" "Because you matter to me," Jace answered. "Not your title, not your power, just you." She stared at him for a long moment, then did something no one had ever seen her do. She cried. Only one tear fell, glowing faintly as it touched her cheek. He didn't say a word. He just stood there, still holding her hand. And far above them, the stars kept watching. Rebellion in the stars. The next morning, the palace was quiet, but it wasn't peace. Something had changed. The queen no longer wore her crown. She walked the palace halls with Jace beside her. The guards watched in silence, unsure what to make of it. Whispers spread fast across the empire. The queen was different. And worse, a human had touched her heart. Far above, in the outer rings of her territory, those whispers turned into weapons. A secret council of alien nobles gathered in the dark of space, their eyes full of hate and fear. "She has broken the sacred line," hissed one. "She walks with a death worlder," said another. "She must be replaced," the oldest one growled. "This is not a queen. This is weakness dressed in flesh." They sent a signal. "Activate rebellion protocol." Back on the capital planet, the queen and Jace walked in her private gardens. It was the only place in the palace that felt alive. Green plants, glowing trees, and sweet-smelling air. Jace touched one of the glowing leaves. "This doesn't look like a garden. It looks like a dream." The queen smiled gently. "It was my mother's dream. She said a ruler must remember beauty, even in a world of war." Jace looked around. "Does anyone else come here?" "No," she said. "Only me. And now you." But their calm didn't last. A loud explosion shook the ground. The palace shields blinked and went down. An alert blared across the sky. "Warning! Internal fleet breach detected." The queen's face hardened. She tapped her wristcom. "Commander, report." Her general replied in panic. "My queen, rebel ships have disguised themselves as patrol vessels. They're in orbit, and they're demanding your surrender. They say you've been corrupted by a human." Jace stepped forward. "This is because of me." She shook her head. "No. This was coming long before you arrived. You just gave them a reason to strike." Suddenly, the skies turned red with rebel warships. In her command chamber, the queen stood tall. Her silver armor shimmered as she gave orders. But Jace saw something else. She wasn't just fighting for power anymore. She was fighting for them. As they prepared for defense, a private message came through, one that made her blood freeze. It was from her cousin, a royal-blooded noble, her last living family. "You've chosen weakness, cousin. You broke the line. Step down now, or die with the human." The queen turned off the screen, her hands clenched into fists. Jace walked closer. "You don't have to face this alone." She looked at him. "I'm not afraid to die, but I am afraid of losing what I've just found." They stood side by side, watching the rebel fleet form in the sky. For the first time in history, the queen was no longer defending her throne. She was defending her heart. A human's worth. The night sky burned. Flames lit up the royal city as rebel ships rained fire from orbit. The queen's palace, once the heart of power, now trembled under attack. She had ruled the stars. Now she was running through her own halls, as a target. Beside her, Jace moved fast and focused. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a warrior. But he knew how to survive. They reached a secret hangar buried beneath the gardens. As doors closed behind them, the queen tapped a glowing panel on the wall. A small stealth shuttle powered up. She looked at Jace. "If we stay, we die." He nodded. "Then let's go." The shuttle roared to life and shot into the atmosphere, slipping past enemy scanners. Below them, her palace burned. The queen didn't speak for a long time. Her home was gone. Her people had turned on her, and all she had left was a human. They landed on a quiet moon, far from the war. It was a simple world. Blue skies, tall trees, no cities, no soldiers. As they walked through soft grass, the queen finally stopped. "I've lost everything," she said. Her voice was hollow. My throne. My people, my blood. Jace didn't reply right away. He simply looked around at the open sky. Then he turned to her. You didn't lose everything. She looked at him. What do I have left? He stepped forward, speaking slowly. A chance. To be more than a ruler. To be someone real. She stared at him. Then something broke her silence. A sound she hadn't heard in years. Crying. But it wasn't from her. From the trees came a group of small alien children. They were hiding, scared and injured. Civilians. Refugees. The Queen stood frozen, unsure what to do. But Jace ran toward them. He knelt beside one small girl whose arm was burned. It's okay, he said softly. I'll help you. He tore a piece of his own shirt and wrapped it around her wound. He gave his water to a young boy even though he hadn't drunk all day. The Queen watched him, this human who had nothing to give, but still gave everything. The children looked at her in fear. She lowered her head. I'm not your enemy, she said. I promise. But her voice was too sharp, too heavy with power. They didn't trust her, until Jace looked at her and said, Kneel. What? She asked, surprised. Kneel to them. Show them you're not above them. No queen had ever knelt before anyone, not once. But now she slowly dropped to her knees in the grass. The children stared with wide eyes. One brave girl stepped forward and placed a flower in the Queen's hand. That single moment said more than all her years on the throne. Later that night, as they sat beside a small fire, the Queen looked at Jace again. You didn't have to. Help them, she said. Jace replied. But I wanted to. They're just kids. They didn't start the war. The Queen sighed. You keep surprising me. I thought strength was everything, but maybe kindness is the rarest power. He smiled. That's what makes humans dangerous. Not our weapons. Our hearts. She looked at him. Really looked at him. And for the first time, she didn't see a prisoner. She saw her equal. The final stand, the peaceful moon, did not stay peaceful for long. At sunrise, the Queen stood on a ridge watching the sky. A red light blinked on her wristband. It was a coded warning. They found us, she said. Jace stepped beside her. How many? Too many. Above, black rebel warships broke through the clouds like thunder. They weren't here to capture. They were here to end her. The Queen took a breath. They want me to surrender, and they'll kill you first to break me. Jace gave a small smile. Then we don't let them. She opened a hidden panel near the shuttle and activated a holographic map. There's a power source under this. Moon, she explained. Built centuries ago by a race older than both of ours. I never used it, because I feared what it could do. Jace raised an eyebrow. What kind of power? Her eyes glowed. A weapon that doesn't destroy armies, it changes minds. The ground trembled. As rebel troops landed, the Queen led Jace deep into a mountain cave. The walls pulsed with old energy, like the heartbeat of a forgotten god. At the center stood a massive alien machine covered in dust, humming with ancient life. It's called the Echo Engine, she said. It sends out a wave, not of fire, but of truth. It reveals what's hidden in the heart. Jace stepped closer. Will it hurt people? No. It only shows what's real. But if your enemies see the truth, he paused. What happens if they see your pain? She looked down. They'll see that I'm not the monster they were taught to fear. Jace nodded. Then, let them see it. They activated the machine. A pulse of light surged through the planet and into the sky, rising like a second sun. From the rebel ships to the soldiers on the ground, everyone froze. Visions filled their minds, memories from the Queen's past, her lonely coronation, the pressure of command, her silent tears in empty halls. And then Jace, offering his hand. It didn't hurt them, but it broke something inside them. The lie. When The light faded. Silence fell over the battlefield. One by one, rebel soldiers dropped their weapons, not from fear, but from understanding. Above them, the queen stepped out of the cave, no armor on her body, only a silver robe. She walked with Jace at her side. Her cousin stood at the front of the rebels, rage in his eyes. "You used trickery. You made them weak." The queen shook her head. "I didn't make them weak. I helped them remember what strength really is." Her cousin raised his weapon, but before he could fire, one of his own soldiers turned and knocked it from his hand. "No more," the soldier said. "I saw her truth. I saw the human's heart." The queen stood tall. "I am no longer your ruler through fear," she said. "If I am to lead again, it will be through trust." The rebels dropped to one knee. Even her cousin, furious, beaten, and broken, could not stand against what he had seen. That night, the moon was quiet again. Jace and the queen stood alone near a fire. "You risked everything," he said. "That machine could have shown anything." She smiled softly. "But I had nothing to hide. Not from you." He looked into her glowing eyes. "Then I think the galaxy's ready for a new kind of queen." She leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. Not a queen, a woman, one who chose love over power. And under the stars they stood hand in hand, no longer prisoner and queen, but partners in something greater. The queen's priceless reaction. The stars had never looked so peaceful. After the wave of truth from the ancient echo engine, the rebellion collapsed, not with blood, but with clarity. Enemies had seen what power had hidden for so long. The pain, the loneliness, the impossible weight the queen had carried all her life. And beside her they saw the human, Jace Carter, who asked for nothing and gave everything. Now the queen's empire was silent, as if holding its breath. Ships no longer circled her throne world with weapons. No more whispers of rebellion echoed in the deep corridors of power. Everything had changed. But what would come next? In the capital city, the queen returned, no longer with an army behind her, but with civilians walking freely beside her. The golden halls, once lined with guards, now opened for anyone. A council of elders and nobles, the same who once called for her to be replaced, waited in the central chamber. They had summoned her not with commands, but with a request. The queen entered with her usual grace, but something about her was different. She wore no armor, no glowing jewels, no crown. At her side, Jace walked silently. Every noble in the room watched him carefully. Once a prisoner, now something more. An elder stood. "Your Majesty, the people ask for guidance. What is the future of this empire now?" The queen paused. Then she looked at Jace, and her answer shocked them all. "I will no longer rule by fear. The old empire is gone. From today, this becomes a union of voices. I step down from absolute power." Gasps filled the chamber. One noble cried out, "Then who leads?" She raised a hand. "No one rules alone anymore. We lead together. But if you ask who I trust most to stand at my side, not above or below, then you already know." She turned to Jace, her voice softer now. "I gave him one wish, and he asked for me. Not my army, not my riches, just me." Jace looked at her, unsure what to say. The queen walked slowly to the center of the chamber and stood before him. She took a breath and removed the silver chain from around her neck, a symbol of her royal bloodline. Then, in front of every noble, warrior, and advisor, she knelt. Not in shame, in choice. She looked up at him, her eyes glowing gently. "Then, I choose you too." The chamber was stunned into silence. No alien had ever knelt before a human. Not in friendship. Not in love. Tears welled in Jace's eyes. "Are you sure?" he asked softly. She smiled, the rare smile only he had ever seen. "I have never been more sure of anything." He knelt with her, and they embraced, not like rulers, not like symbols, but like two people who had found each other in a galaxy filled with war and sorrow. Months passed. Together, the Queen and Jace led the rebuilding of the Empire, not through force but by traveling to every world, listening to every voice, and healing old wounds. Children who once feared her now brought her flowers. Old enemies returned to the table to speak, not to fight. And the strange, quiet human became a symbol of peace across the stars. But peace never lasts forever. One day, a new threat appeared, not from within but from outside the known galaxy. A powerful alien fleet, unknown to both human and alien kind, entered the far edge of the Queen's star systems. Their ships were silent. Their weapons burned suns. They did not speak. They only destroyed. The Union called a meeting. Generals panicked. Worlds screamed for defense. The Queen stood in the center of the war room, calm. Jace entered quietly. She turned to him. "This time, we may not survive." Jace nodded. "Then we face it together." But before the fleet reached them, something strange happened. One of the enemy ships was pulled down, not by weapons, but by a message, a signal. Human. It was Earth. Earth's fleet had been silent for years, recovering from the last great war. But now, it responded, not for war, but for him. The humans came, not with orders to conquer, but to protect the man who had united a queen and changed a galaxy. In the largest battle ever seen, humans and aliens stood together, not as enemies, but as one. Jace led from the front, side by side with the Queen. Their unity changed everything. The enemy fled, confused, broken by the strength of something they didn't understand. Compassion, love, truth. Years passed, and one day, under a sky of 3 suns, a crowd gathered in the royal gardens, no longer a secret place, but a home of peace. Jace stood in front of a new generation, alien and human children laughing together. He told them the story of how he was once a prisoner, of how a queen gave him one wish, and how that wish changed everything. The Queen stood beside him, her silver hair now touched with light streaks of age, but her eyes still glowed with the same strength. She placed a hand on his, and he spoke one last truth to the children who would shape the stars next. "I never wanted power. I never wanted a crown. I just wanted to show one person that she was not alone. And that," he said with a smile, "was enough to start a revolution." The crowd cheered. But the Queen, she only looked at him, with the same expression she had that very first day, a mixture of shock, wonder, and something priceless. Because long after the battles were won, after the thrones and titles were gone, after the galaxy had changed, she still couldn't believe he chose her, and in her heart that moment would forever be the one that changed everything.